Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'd like to welcome all of you to Social Media Week. My name is Ed Malthouse. I am the research director of the IMC Spiegel Initiative. And it's my great pleasure today to introduce our presenter, who's going to be Dr. Soo-Jung Kim, who is one of our senior researchers with our research initiative. Before I turn it over to Soo-Jung, I want to give you a little bit of information about the IMC Spiegel Research Initiative. So we're really focused, the headline here says it, industry impacting applied research that improves marketing communication. So that's where our work lives. It's all in the area of marketing communication, but it's applied research that's going to improve results. So the goal of our center is to do groundbreaking research in that space. So this research should have impact on both practitioners, so companies that do marketing communications, as well as on the academic community. So I think our center is kind of unique in having that dual focus, where we're trying to have consciously trying to impact both those audiences. There's a few other things that kind of, focus what we do. So the nature of the projects that we take on will involve using real databases and will involve financial impact. So, we're not interested in necessarily, attitudinal measures. We want to find out, how does this actually drive purchase behaviors? Another thing that's really important is that all of our work gets tested in the field with real experiments. So it's not just academics with their theories. These are some theories that have been tested with rigorous field experiments. We work with a variety of companies. We're grateful to our sponsors who partner with us. These partners do a number of things. They feed us interesting research questions. They give us, what are the biggest problems that are on your mind, and hopefully that kind of fits in the scope of what we try to do in our center. They provide data. They also provide financial resources in some cases, and the ability to test what comes out of this research. So it's no longer just a theory. We've been able to test it pretty rigorously. One more slide, then I'm going to give it over to Soo-Jung. Most of our research to date has been focused on around the question of how relevant customer engagement affects purchase behaviors. So engagement is a very important topic in marketing right now. For decades, marketers would broadcast messages out at passive consumers, and passive consumers were supposed to pay attention and listen. Today, the marketing environment has changed a lot, where consumers actively participate and engage with the brand. So our research is really focused on understanding, what does it mean to be engaged with the brand? Now, if you look at this chart, what we have are less relevant forms of engagement and more relevant forms of engagement. So we're trying to help companies understand the difference between less relevant engagement and the more relevant ones. Well, the short answer to this is whether it's going to help build the brand. Engagement that is focused on what the brand ought to mean to the consumer is going to be highly relevant, and kind of the overarching theory of our work is that relevant engagement is going to be a very potent way to affect purchase behaviors and sales. So we've done a couple studies on social media. Soo-Jung is going to tell you about the results from negative word of mouth. We're also doing work on in the area of mobile marketing. We have a couple studies that talk about relevant engagement with mobile and how that affects purchase behaviors. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Soo-Jung, who's going to tell you about a study that she's been running on negative word of mouth.
Thank you, Ed, for the great introductions. So, hi, I'm Soo-Jung Kim. I'm a postdoctoral research associate at the Spiegel Research Initiative. I want to thank everyone for coming here today. It's a great pleasure and honor to share some of this exciting research that we have done here at the Spiegel Research Initiative. Before I start my presentation, I want to thank my co-authors, Becky Wang, who is a PhD student at the Kellogg School of Management, and Dr. Malthouse. I also want to thank Professor Tom Collinger for his tremendous support and insight. And lastly, I want to thank Ted Spiegel, who will be watching us somewhere and then smiling about the progress we have made here at the center. So today, I'm going to talk about angry customers. And I'm going to talk about angry customers who are posting negative word of mouth on a brand's social media website. And I'm going to talk about viewers who are reading those negative word of mouth messages. And then I'm going to talk about the impact of engaging with negative word of mouth activities on purchase behavior. But a bigger goal of this presentation is that we're going to move from a faith that negative word of mouth matters to a fact that negative word of mouth has impact on purchase behavior with scientific evidence. So I'll give you a little bit of background about social media and electronic word of mouth. So according to the McKinsey Global Institute, there are 1.5 billion users on social networking sites as of 2012 worldwide. And for Facebook, it took about 1 year to reach 50 million users. And for Twitter, it only took 9 months. If you think that's not really, that doesn't sound like a short period of time, for radio, it took 48 years to reach 50 million users. And for TV, it took 13 years. So all these emerging social media platforms are being adopted at a record-breaking speed. And then there are just a sheer number of these social media outlets where people can share their stories, experience, and information, whether it's commercial or not. And these numbers give us a sense of how much information is being shared on some of the most popular social media outlets. So in a single day, YouTube users upload 12 years of video, and Facebook users share 2.5 billion pieces of information, and Twitter users tweet 400 million tweets, and Instagram users upload 40 million photos in a single day. And from a marketing communications perspective, this creates a huge opportunity for firms, because now firms can monitor what their customers are thinking about instantly, 24/7. But at the same time, these also creates a huge challenge because they can't completely control what is being created and what is being shared. And if you think about all the discussion about the power of word of mouth, it actually dates back to 50s and 60s. There were all these studies about the power of word of mouth from your families and friends and colleagues. But then now just the scale and visibility and speed has exponentiated due to online social media platforms. And I'll give you one other piece of information. So this actually came out about 10 days ago. So the Nielsen company published a report on trust in advertising about 10 days ago. And they conducted a survey to online users in 58 different countries. And they asked, okay, what is the forms of advertising that you trust most? And as you can see, that word of mouth recommendations from people you know or people from you don't know, like other customers you can see on online platforms. These are the most influential forms of advertising. 2 of them were on top 3. So if you are a company that has a good reputation, you will be happy. All the good words will be circulated, and then you will get, on average, 4.5 or 5 stars. But if you have a bad reputation, or if there's one crisis that just emerged, you might be screwed, because it's just going to be circulated, and then it will just a chaos. So there's now a generalized belief that negative word of mouth really matters. This actually, Professor Collinger forwarded this email to me. So there are tons of webinars these days about how to handle all these critical customers and then how to make them into your fans by managing negative word of mouth. And then these are all the textbook examples of the companies which turned their social media crisis into opportunity. So Domino used marketing campaign that used social media to get suggestions from their angry customers about the new recipe. And then JetBlue, they issued a customer bills of rights when they had a crisis back in 2007. And then FedEx, I don't know whether you remember this or not, it was back in 2011. There was a FedEx employee who tossed a computer monitor over the fence of a customer's house, and that was caught on camera, like CCTV, yeah. And then the senior vice president had to make a public apology on its website, and then they also posted this on YouTube. And whether it's sales records or brand reputation or satisfaction scores, all these companies were able to turn this crisis into good results. But I want to point out there are still several limitations in existing research and examples. First is about this problem of faith and facts. We know that there's a faith that the negative impact of negative word of mouth is much bigger than the positive impact of positive word of mouth. But the problem is that there are not many studies that actually estimated the effect of negative word of mouth using actual purchase behaviors or sales records. There are a lot of good studies, but most of those studies used either brand attitude, brand loyalty, purchase intention, brand image. So all the dependent variables were something like proxy for purchase behavior or sales record or brand performance. And the second limitation is the distinction between posting and viewing. So when we look at all the studies about negative word of mouth effect, most of them are about viewing effect. So either you read online reviews from Yelp or Amazon or Yahoo Movie, or you heard something from your friends and family. But there are very few studies which looked at the effect of posting. So what happens if you write something bad about a brand, how that will impact you as a poster? So that's a question that hasn't been studied that much. And the last limitation is about sentiment. So there are a number of studies which talked about the valence of word of mouth, but I would say that they took quite a simplistic way in a sense that they categorize all these word of mouth messages into either positive, neutral, or negative. But then not many studies try to capture more in-depth information, for example, emotions expressed in those messages. If you look at all these customer emotion studies, they cite anger, disappointment, sadness, surprise, concern. There are all these different types of emotions. And depending on what kinds of emotions a customer feels, that person's attribution and copying strategies will differ. So it's a very important question to ask. So before moving into the hypothesis and research questions, I'll give you a little bit of context about our study. So we are looking at a coalition loyalty company that runs an online platform, brand website that has community where customers can share their experience and information. So what a coalition loyalty program means is that if you're a member of this company, they have over 100 sponsors in different product categories. So when you make a purchase, you present your membership card and you will get points from buying gas, groceries, or credit card purchases and things like that. And I think on average, 1 point is equivalent to $30. And after you earn certain amount of points, you can redeem your points for a variety of items like merchandise, gift cards, and flight and hotels, or even instant cash. So that redemption is kind of the sort of core benefit of the brand. And sometime back in 2011, they announced important policy changes. And one of them was the introduction of expiration date of the points earned, which hadn't existed before. So this created a huge frustration and anger among customers. Just think about it. So I collected all these points, and then suddenly this company tells me that, okay, now we're gonna impose 5-year restriction. You should use up your points within 5 years. So they all felt that they are like stolen their points. So that created some negative word of mouth messages on the company's brand website. So there were 116 messages posted by 75 people and then viewed by over 700 people. So this is sort of a brief context of this study. And then we started with 2 hypotheses. So first is about the effect of viewing. So if you look at all this, I told you that the majority of negative word of mouth studies are about viewing effect, right? And if you look at all these studies, the general consensus is that viewing has negative impact. It's bad for your brand. The reason why it's bad is because A, the viewers will be informed about all these problems associated with this bad experience of other customers. B, they will share all these negative sentiments from other customers. So it's very likely that those viewers will decrease their purchase behaviors. So that's our first hypothesis. But second hypothesis about posting, it's a little more complicated. So there are actually 2 different mechanisms that explain the effect of posting. One is very simple. So if I'm a poster, if I'm posting negative word of mouth, I'm the one who's very angry, right? So I will probably want to retaliate the company which created this problem for me. So I will decrease my purchase behavior. That's explanation A. But there's another explanation which is interesting, is a venting effect. What this means is that once you say all these bad things about a company, you will feel catharsis. Oh, you feel like, oh, I'm done. And you will feel good. And then you may even feel guilty about the company because you know that now all these random people are going to see all these bad things that I wrote about this company. So we're not sure which mechanism really works. And then there's another important moderating effect, which is a customer's pre-existing relationship with the firm. So there's actually some studies that talks about when you are a loyal and committed customer, and when you had that bad experience, when the company provides you some sort of remedy, for instance, apology or maybe a little compensation, then you will actually increase your purchase behavior. So that's something that we are particularly interested in. So in the context of this study, we focused on posting and redemption behavior. As I told you, redeeming points to get all the merchandise and flight and instant cash, that's a very critical opportunity for this brand because it's an opportunity for its customers to be reminded of the core benefits of the brand. So our hypothesis is that customers who posted negative word of mouth and subsequently redeem those points will actually increase their purchase behavior. So we're not making any prediction about the main effect of posting, but looking at the interaction effect between posting and redeeming. And then we added 2 more questions. So as I told you, although sentiment studies, that was too simplistic. So we were trying to measure, see what types of negative emotions are embedded in negative word of mouth messages that we saw. And if there are impacts, what are the differential impacts of those different emotions on purchase behaviors? So we were very fortunate to receive a unique single source data. So we got all different sets of data by the same individuals. So we got transaction and redemption data of negative word of mouth posters and viewers, and there was this control group which didn't post, redeem, or view. And then we had information about their posting and viewing negative word of mouth activities. And then we were able to look at a 15-week period, 4 weeks before the policy change announcement happened and 11 weeks after the announcement. And then we conducted a textual analysis. So when you think about textual analysis, there are two aspects. One, what is being expressed? Two, how much it is expressed. So we were trying to see what types of negative emotions are expressed. So we looked at all this literature on negative consumer emotions, and we were able to distinguish anger, disappointment, and all these other emotions, doubt, surprise, confusion, or just neutral information. But due to the low frequency, we collapsed everything into what's called concern. And then we try to make what's called emotion score by looking at the intensity of the words used. So we looked at the frequency of the words used and the rarity of the words used. So there was a complex formula that Becky Wang created, and then we were able to calculate the score. These are some of the examples of the emotions. So some expressed anger. So I'm truly disgruntled. It's incredibly unfair. I'm frustrated. I'm very angry. So these are types of keywords that signify anger. And then some others express disappointment. This is a little less intense. So I'm totally disappointed. And then some others concerned, they were just suggesting, how about doing this and doing that? At least we still have 5 years. So there are all these different degrees of negative emotions. So our results. So remember our two hypotheses, one about viewing effect and second about the posting effect. So we found that viewing decreased purchase behavior. So we looked at both point accumulation and then purchase frequencies. And if you are a viewer of negative word of mouth messages, you decrease your point accumulation by 12%. And then your purchase frequency goes down by 5%. And if you're a poster and then you also redeemed your points and then experience the core value of the brand, your point accumulation goes by 41%, goes up by, yeah. And your purchase frequency goes up by 108%, which is a very surprising result for us, even though we hypothesized it. So this shows the interaction effect between posting and redeeming. So if you look at the left one, it doesn't matter whether you posted negative word of mouth or not. It's actually, there's no statistical difference between those two people. But if you redeemed your points and then you posted, you can see that your point accumulation is much higher than those people who redeemed but didn't post anything. And then our first research question about different types of negative emotions. We found that more than half of the emotions expressed was anger. And then there are some other levels of emotions like disappointment and concern. And then these were the scores for each emotion. And we ran another model using all these different expression scores. And what we found was that customers who post strong negative emotion are likely to decrease purchase behavior, whereas customers who express less intense emotions will increase their purchase behavior. So if you're a poster who expressed very, very strong like frustration, unfair, I'm going to leave the company, things like that, your purchase behavior goes down. So the point accumulation goes down by 5%, although it wasn't statistical significance, it was just directionality. But your purchase frequency goes down by 3%. But if you are a poster who expressed concerns, more mild expressions, of negativity, your point accumulation goes up, and then purchase frequency goes up. So this is what we found. So to summarize our finding, and then think about why, negative word of mouth viewers decrease their purchase behaviors. As I explained, I think this is because if you're a customer who's not posting anything but just viewing all these negative word of messages posted by other customers, you learn about this company and learn about the problems of this company, and then you share that bad emotions that other customers are expressing, so you're going to decrease your behavior. So what should a brand do if you encounter these posters who don't, these viewers who don't post anything? We think that you should actively participate in the public forum and show that you care. We think that one of the mistakes that this company made was that it did not participate in the discussion at all during any time. So maybe this was a business decision that couldn't be reversed, so they did not chime in, but it's all customers' back and forth interaction. So I think that you should show that you care for your customer. And second finding, negative word of mouth posters may increase their purchase behavior if the person continues to experience the brand's benefit. We saw the interaction effect between redeeming and posting. So what should a brand do? I think when you encounter such posters who talk about bad things about your brand, you should think about a way to make them experience the core benefits of brand. For instance, for this brand, you might tell them, if you redeem in this period of time, we will give you extra points. Or we added some more items for redemption, more valuable items for redemption. So go and redeem. So we think you have to provide that opportunity. And finding number 3, different negative emotions have differential influences. So people who express intense emotions, they're more likely to decrease their purchase behavior. So what should a brand do? We think that they shouldn't treat all the negative word of mouth messages in the same way. So you have to closely monitor different keywords that signify different emotions, and then have to customize your communication strategies depending on the types of emotions that you are observing. So for people who express intensive emotions, you should treat them more carefully. And then for people who express concern, maybe you just show them that you care. So we think that we have 3 important implications and contributions to the existing pool of knowledge. First is theory, second is method, and third is practical implications. So first, by distinguishing the difference between posting and viewing effects, we were able to sort of develop the theory one step further. So there are really, really few studies that distinguish the effect of posting and viewing, which we attempted to do in this research. And second, we were able to quantify the impact of negative word of mouth using actual negative word of mouth activity data that are linked to the same people's purchase behaviors. So we were able to provide quantified evidence in that sense. We also try to come up with a scoring technique that you can capture the intensity of the negative emotions expressed in negative word of mouth messages, which could have a practical usefulness for industry professionals. And we enhanced strategy to manage negative word of mouth. So we would advise firms to closely monitor the sentiments of their customers and come up with different communication strategies that emphasize the reciprocal value of the brand. So in conclusion, with our research, we now know that the effect of negative word of mouth is not just a faith, it's a fact. And for negative word of mouth viewers, you have to show that you care. You care about them. So handle the situation publicly. And for negative word of mouth posters, give them an opportunity to experience the core benefits of the brand one more time and offer either an apology or a small remedy to overcome the situation. And be cautious about those who post very strong negative emotions. And I think this all goes back to the question of that relevant engagement that Professor Malthaus talked about at the beginning of this talk. So when we talk about brand customer engagement, there must be a degree of less relevant and more relevant engagement. And we see that depending on the types of consumers, whether the person is viewer or poster, and depending on the types of expressions expressed, if you are a poster who's really strongly talking about bad things or not, you have to think about what's the most relevant engagement strategy for these different types of people, and then come up with the solution depending on your analysis. So thank you, and then if you have any questions, please, yeah.
Hi, I'm George, and I have a question. How do you think this research can implement across different categories and prices? For example, people buying pencils and buying TV may have very different behavior in terms of redemption. Like pencil is very cheap, and TV is. How do you get rid of those variables in terms of the price of different categories?
Yeah, I think that's a very great question. So you mean among the members of this program, there must be different types of consumers, right? Who's going for more small rewards, and then who are going for more like bigger rewards, like flights or things like that. Right. Okay. So I mean, for this analysis, we didn't differentiate the people, whether the person is a person who's going for frequent small items or who's fishing for like a big one. We just looked at whether the person redeemed or not. But I would say that's an interesting future research question, because we are working on the second part of this research. We're expanding our context, so that's something that we could.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main message is in responding to this, you'd like to be able to get the consumer to engage with the brand concept, which is about thinking about how this brand is playing a role in their life, and so whether it's redeeming for something small or redeeming for something big, you want to move them towards thinking about the benefits that they derive from that, and address that in your response to the negative word of mouth. Other questions?
Hello, I'm Zoe. Thank you for the presentation. And my question is, I noticed that one of the conclusions is negative mouth of word posters tend to increase purchase behavior. My question is, how can we be so sure there's a causal effect between a causal relation between these two factors? Is it possible that there is another factor affecting both of these two actions?
Okay, so I want to clarify. So posting itself doesn't have a positive impact. We're looking at the interaction between posting and redeeming. So we didn't, I'm just correcting. So we didn't see the main effect of posting. It's not significant. But when it's combined with redemption, it has a positive impact. So you post something negative, and then you redeem the points, your purchase behavior will increase. And then in terms of causality, I don't know how much I should go deep into the model, but we ran a random intercept model using, so we were controlling for the person's posting behavior and post-posting behavior, and then see whether posting and then redeeming changes the person's future purchase behavior. So we included viewing, posting, redeeming, and then seasonality to control for all the different factors that are associated with purchase behavior.
So let me kind of just add on. I mean, Sujong did a great job in responding, but what we have is we know what your behavior was like before you got angry, And we know what your behavior was like after you got angry. Okay, so that kind of gives us a baseline measure of where you're at. But then there's other stuff that could be happening in the marketplace. Like I said, we got a control group of 10,000 people that, we know what they were like before this, announcement happened. We know what they were like after this event happened. All right. So what that means is we got the pre-measure, we got that control group, which, in the grand scheme of things is pretty good, a pretty good test of the effect of me getting angry and redeeming on behavior. Now it's not perfect because consumers self-select into it, but in the grand scheme of designs for testing causality, this is a pretty strong one. So.
Hi, I'm Felix. My question is, so during your research, is actually the fact of the speed of spreading the negative words actually is a very significant factor that actually, influence your result of how the behavior of the negative purchase, like after they post it and the viewer, is that actually a very significant, influence? Like maybe one was like one night 10,000 negative, or just one negative for a whole month, something like that.
So I remember the posting happened actually most of the posting happened in 1 week after the announcement. So there wasn't really much variation. So let's say, so the announcement was made like November 1st, 2011, and then within 1 week, you saw over 50% of people posted all these messages already. So I wouldn't say that the speed of the spread of the messages was not a factor that we accounted for this particular study. And viewing also happened pretty quickly. Most of the viewing happened in 1 month after the announcement, so that was very quick.
I have a slightly It's basic. It's nothing to do with the technicality of the project.
Okay.
But if I was a marketer today and I launched a page which had, say, 500,000 followers, with this conclusion, it makes me believe that I should not have people following my page, because in case a negative incident happens and viewers see it, I could redeem, say, 200,000, but I still have lost the 300,000 in terms of purchase behavior, because according to the conclusion, it goes down. So as a marketer, should I understand that I should not have those many people following my page? Mm-hmm. It's a tricky situation, but I'm just trying to think as a marketer, what would I take away from this
that's
research?
a very good and tricky question. Yeah, I would say that this also goes back to the question of short-term and long-term effect of how to handle the negative word of mouth. I mean, you might say by just looking at this result, you would say, okay, if negative word of mouth happens and then I give this remedy and then you calculate it's actually not good for my profit. But we only looked at 15 weeks period for this single incident. And we have to try to find a way to extend the findings. So we were not able to look at the long-term effect of this. There might have been some different behavior changes if you look at 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year period. So that's a very interesting question to look into. Because if this let's say it has a long-term effect. So you got the remedy and then your satisfaction or loyalty goes up. This isn't just about this 15-week period of question, right? This is a lifetime value question. So you have to think about it. I don't have an exact answer, but that's my question for your question.
So what Sujong said is, well, I would say the company missed an opportunity. Okay, so there was all this negative stuff going on out there, and they kept silent. Now, had they come back with some sort of response to kind of alleviate the situation, showing that that we do care about you and we want to make it right, but we need to have this policy change, explaining that, doing something that would show that they did care about the customers, then all of a sudden it turns around and you know, the word of mouth would then be positive. All right? So by staying silent, all the negative stuff could propagate and you know, whereas they could have come around and addressed it and realized a benefit. I saw a hand up here.
Hello? So what happens sometimes is that customers will go up there and update their angry post and says that, oh, the company did something to improve my experience. So what kind of effect would that have on the purchasing and the point redemption behavior? And as a company, when that happens, is it better that like we go up there when we engage into conversation, or do we personally reach out to the customers and like prompt them to go up there and update their experience?
Yeah, I would say that do it publicly rather than doing it in personally, so that even not just that customer, but other customers can also see that you are doing something for their customers. And I think it's also another interesting question that there's that update from the angry customer that this company did something. I think that will actually, I mean, I'm just hypothesizing that will actually have a very positive impact for the brands, and because it's sharing that information that this company handled something, this company responded. So this company is interested in web care or complaint management, whatever you call it. So I think that eventually they will have a positive impact. That's just my hypothesis.
Tom, you want to jump in?
Yeah. Just a thought, which is, you know, this is tying your question to the last question, which is, well, one of the things you can do is just go out of business and then you don't have to worry about this.
Yeah.
But as long as you're going to be in business in 2013, you're either going to be part of the conversation or you're going to be ignorant of the conversation. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to be part of the conversation, you have lots and lots of strategies to consider. One of them is you say the right things, but you don't change your behavior as a company, right? We've seen that. They're very sorry, they answer the question in the right way, but they don't change their behavior. There are others who actually don't communicate as well, but actually change their behavior anyway. And then there are those who actually are part of the conversation, let that inform their behavior change their behavior, and continue to evolve their business. So I think these questions are wonderful questions, but they're framed a little bit as binary questions around there's a yes or there's a no answer. When in fact, of course, there are lots of strategies for how to address these things, and they have to do with both what to say as well as what to do, and not just, as Soo Jung said, not just in the moment, but over time.
Other questions?
So the first group that you had that was the viewers of the negative postings, were all of those, was that group, were they already existing customers? Was there any part of your research or any hypothesis to how this viewing the posts would affect customers that weren't familiar with the brand, or that were the acquisition of new customers?
Yeah, so for this particular context, those were existing customers. So in order to get access to the community board, you have to log in using your customer ID and then password. So,
I guess in some of our other research, we've looked at really good customers and weaker customers, and often the best customers are already at a ceiling. They just can't buy any more from you. And so what we found is that there have often been much stronger effects with the much weaker customers, just because there's an opportunity. If you get them thinking about how this brand could be playing a role in their life through the discussions that are taking place, then there's a big opportunity to switch share from a competitor. Other questions? Don't be shy. The next session's going to start at 2 o'clock. So maybe we should wrap up now, and then you have a chance to take a little break and get a get a drink of water, and then come back for the next session, which will be great at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much.